Hello, I'm Claire Smith and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing part 2 of my perfume collection videos. So if you haven't seen part 1, I'll leave it linked in the cards above and I'll also put it in the description box so you can go and watch it at your leisure. So I'm Claire Smith and I make videos all about perfume, so if that kind of thing interests you then please consider subscribing and also please like this video if you do enjoy this video. So let's get on with part 2. So in this part of my perfume collection I'm going to be focusing on my deeper, darker fragrances. And there still will be a few fruitier, more powdery fragrances in this part of the collection because I just have fewer darker fragrances than I do fruitier and powdery ones. So let's begin. So the first fragrance is Angel by Mugler. So this fragrance is actually a vintage Thierry Mugler fragrance. And Angel is one of those really comforting fragrances that you only really wear when the weather's cold outside and with a fluffy jumper. It makes me feel snugly, Angel. It's a very comforting fragrance. Angel is a chocolatey patchouli fragrance and it's definitely a love or hate for most people, so definitely a try before you buy. This next one is one from And Other Stories and it's called Sardonyx Fire. So this is a rose-based fragrance, but it also has saffron and amber in it. And to me, this fragrance reminds me of a boozier version of Decadence. It's kind of got a bit of a rum feel about it to me. So now on to my signature fragrances. So going back in time, Lola by Marc Jacobs was one of my signature fragrances. And this one was one that I was gifted by my now husband. So he bought me my first bottle of Lola. And I repurchased Lola about 2 years ago because I didn't want to be without it. But ultimately Lola nowadays is not really my style. It's a peppery rose fragrance. And it's something that is quite hard to find now. But I think once this bottle's gone, I will say goodbye. Another signature fragrance was Black Opium. So Black Opium by YSL, I think it's got a lot of hate now, hasn't it? Because it's just become a victim of its own success. A lot of people wore Black Opium back in the day. And actually I still really like Black Opium. I don't wear it as much now, but I wore it all the way through my PhD. And I think that's why I associate it with good times. Yeah, Black Opium is always going to be in the love pile for me. And my other signature fragrance used to be Loverdose, but I would say that Loverdose was only my signature for a couple of months actually. And it's something that sort of reminds me of going out and having fun with someone. It's a very much a going out kind of fragrance, but it's basically a licorice and vanilla fragrance. It's definitely very in your face and loud. And I love the bottle as well with the dagger through the heart. I think that the bottle is really striking and very teenage. So that's Loverdose by Diesel. So this next one is one that really had a moment on YouTube when I was just starting my channel. And it's one of the first fragrances that I bought. And this one is just a really creamy lactonic sandalwood fragrance with a really distinctive chestnut note in it. And I think it's kind of faded a little bit and people are decluttering it and using up their bottles. But actually I haven't used this very much. I don't wear it that often because I don't really like the dry down the second day, and I quite often re-wear clothes like jumpers and things, and I just don't like the smell of it the second day. But I do really enjoy the fragrance itself. I just plan when I wear it, if you know what I mean. So that's Zadig and Voltaire, This Is Her. So this next fragrance is one from Nina Ricci and it's Chant d'Extase. And this one I wanted because it's supposed to have a marine feeling about it, but it's a little bit salty but not too much, and it's also a little bit fruity, and it has a caramel in the base of it, which it doesn't smell synthetic. It's very realistic and it's really not too much. It's quite a fresh fragrance even though there is that caramel note, and it's just one I really, really like. So that's Nina Ricci Chant d'Extase. So this next one is one from the Nirvana line from Elizabeth and James, so a celebrity fragrance, and this is Nirvana Amethyst. So I was debating which one of the fragrance line to get, and I'm really pleased that I went for this one because it has a tobacco note and it's a really kind of realistic dry tobacco, and it has a really nice vanilla as well. I think this one is really, really good for the price that you can get it for. You can still get it if you get it from places like Fragrance X. It is still like £20–30, which is an amazing price really for how good the fragrance is. This next one also had a moment when I was first starting my channel, and it's one I like, but again I don't wear it very often. So this is Nina Ricci L'Extase Rose Absolue. So this is a almost oudy rose fragrance, and I think it's quite hard to find nowadays. But at one point people were going crazy over it because it's a Francis Kurkdjian fragrance and people were comparing it to Oud Satin Mood. So I think that's what caused the blip in popularity with this one. But yeah, this is one you're seeing people declutter now. So the next one is my only Montal fragrance, and this one is Intense Cafe. So this one was a gift from Gabby, the fragrantician. Thank you, Gabby. And this one is a rose, oody, musky fragrance with some vanilla. I'd say the coffee in this is something that you can easily miss. It's really not intense cafe to me. It's more very light cafe with lots of rose and musk. It wasn't what I was expecting at all actually when I first tried this fragrance, but now I do smell more of the coffee. It just took a bit of finding for me. This next one is Elisab Le Parfum, which is a complete classic and is a orange blossom fragrance with jasmine as well. And it's also got a really strong honey note in it. I think Elisab is a very elegant fragrance, and I really like the In White flanker and also the new Lumiere flanker. I think those ones are really nice as well. So back to some fruity ones now. So Miller Harris Found at Dusk is one that I've been enjoying this summer. And actually in the hot weather it does fade pretty quickly, but I really do like this one, and it reminds me of my dad's place basically. So it makes me think of a really hot, humid summer day, and it makes me think of being in the shade and just waiting for the rain. So it's got blackcurrant in it and also mint, and it's just a really refreshing summery fragrance. This does fade quite quickly in really hot weather, but I still really like it. It's a really easy reach and it's really refreshing in the summertime, so that's Found at Dusk. This next one is L'Ombre de Merveille by Hermès, and this one I bought after trying a sample of Eau de Merveille Bleu from Emily. And yeah, I really like this whole line actually. And this one just makes me think of Coca-Cola. It's got like a spicy Coca-Cola feel to it. And it's really long lasting. It's really quite strong as well. You really don't need very much of this fragrance. So that's L'Ombre de Merveille by Hermès. This next one has been described by some people as diaper bag. And I'd say for me, this is probably one of my favourite cheapies. So I like this one because it smells like Johnson's baby lotion. And it's just a super powdery, creamy fragrance. It's really clean smelling, and I just really like it. And it's like, I don't know, like £15 or something. It's a really nice one. So that's Simply Poudre by Jill Sander. So the next fragrance is Glossier You, and this one is an all occasion fragrance. It's one of those that could be your signature scent. It's just a very clean, creamy, musky fragrance. Definitely one of those your skin but better fragrances. I really like Glossier You. So going back to the Kayali fragrances, this one is Invite Only Amber 23. And I'd say actually out of all of the fragrances that I've tried from Kayali, this is one of my favourites. I think this one and the Utopia are probably the nicest ones that I've tried. So this is a bit like the new one, it's cherry again, but this one is sort of a bit darker, I think. This one is tobacco as well. But yeah, really nice and very long lasting. So the next one is one from Floris, and this is my only Floris fragrance. This is a Rose 4. I only recently got this and I've worn it a couple of times, and I'd say that it's like a oody rose, but it's a very different type of oody rose. It's quite light and it's definitely something you could wear in summer. And yeah, it's made me curious about other Floris fragrances actually. So that's a Rose 4. This next one is Loverdose Tattoo. So this is a flanker of Loverdose, and this one is described as making you smell like a rice pudding, and yeah, it makes me smell like a rice pudding, so I'll go with that one. So the next fragrance is Jimmy Choo by Jimmy Choo, and this is just a really sweet but patchouli fragrance. So it's got pear at the top, and yeah, this does smell like pear drops to begin with, but yeah, the patchouli makes it really strong and long lasting, and I think this is one that could really give you a headache if you oversprayed. It's really quite piercing. So that's Jimmy Choo. So the next fragrance is Emporio Armani Because It's You. So this fragrance I've already been through one entire bottle of, and I don't think I will repurchase once I'm through this one. I think I'm over it. But this is a raspberry rose fragrance with a bit of a citrus edge to it and lots of vanilla. This is definitely not groundbreaking, but it's just an easy reach, and it's something that is appropriate for most situations. This next one is Nina Ricci Ricci. So this is discontinued now, but this is a rhubarb fragrance, and it has a sort of rose syrup to the end of the fragrance. It's really quite delicious actually, this one. And rhubarb is something that I don't often smell in fragrances, and it's really distinctive here and really quite pleasant. If you're looking for a rhubarb fragrance, this might be one to check out. So that's Richie Richie. This fragrance is called Eau de Star, and I think this is some kind of angel flanker or maybe a standalone fragrance from Mugler. I never really know exactly what the difference is. So I was sent this one by Annie Scents. If you haven't checked out Annie Scents on YouTube, please do go check her out. She does loads of comparison videos and she is really friendly, and she was kind enough to send me this fragrance. This is like a summer version of Angel actually. It's got a watermelon note, and you get the patchouli first and then the watermelon. It's quite an interesting fragrance actually. So next is Kat Von D. So this is Sinner. I don't have Saint, but Sinner to me smells like a less good version of Midnight Poison, but that's basically why I bought it, because I remembered trying it in store and I was kind of missing smelling Midnight Poison and wanted to smell something similar, and I thought this might be similar, and yeah, it's filled that void for me. So the next fragrance is Black Perfecto by Guerlain from the La Petite Rome Noir range, and this one is that sort of leather, rose, cherry kind of trio with some musks. And yeah, this one's gorgeous. This one is probably one of my favourite fragrances, but I tend to only wear it in the winter. But I did wear it in the really hot weather one day, and it actually was surprisingly pleasant and worked really nicely. So yeah, if you can still find it, Black Perfecto is a good one. This next one is Versace Crystal Noir. So this is often described as a vampire on holiday, and I kind of get that it looks mysterious from the name and from the bottle and things, but to me this is just a soapy clean kind of fragrance and really cool smelling as well. And this works really well in summer as well as winter. This is one of those all-rounders. This is definitely something that could be your signature scent. And I think this is a really good designer fragrance actually. So it's Versace Crystal Noir. This next one is Want by D Squared. So this is discontinued now, but this is just a really boozy smelling vanilla actually. It's also got a bit of texture to it, so it's a bit powdery or grainy, and this is something again you could layer with because it is quite a simple fragrance, but just a very good one. So that's Want by D Squared. The next one is Agent Provocateur Fatale Intense. So I bought this earlier this year, and this one I was intrigued because it's supposed to have a chili note, and I really do smell the chili. It's really quite hot, and this one reminds me of PVC, and it makes me think of kind of tight dresses. It is what you imagine from the bottle colour and from the name of it, Fatale Intense. And again, this fragrance has licorice in it, and I really like licorice. So yeah, it's a cheapie, and you know, you don't expect much from cheapies, but it is quite an interesting fragrance. That's Agent Provocateur Fatale Intense. So the next fragrance is Gucci Rush. So this fragrance is famous for its bottle, or the fact that it isn't in a bottle, it's in a sort of cassette rectangle. And this I wasn't sure about when I first got it, and I have to admit this one isn't me. This is like I'm trying to be someone else, this fragrance. But I have worn it and I do quite enjoy it when I'm in the mood. But yeah, it's Barbie dolls is how it smells to me. Barbie dolls and vanilla. And it also has quite a distinctive coriander note in it as well. So this has been entirely reformulated now. They've even changed the note listing on the fragrance, so that, you know, Gucci are being pretty blatant about the fact they've reformulated this. But this is one of the original formulations from Scannon. So that's Gucci Rush. So the next fragrance is Cacharel's Yes I Am. So this again was one of those really hyped fragrances on YouTube. And this one is a sort of milky, raspberry, caramel, lactonic kind of fragrance. It's really something that's a real sweet treat, that is something that you want when the weather's cold and has sort of middling longevity. So yeah, this is just a fun one. This is Yes I Am. Another super fun one is Scandal by Night. So this is a honey and tuberose and cherry bomb. This is a super sticky cherry fragrance, and it's one of those date night fragrances. To me, this fragrance smells like you're trying to get someone. I think if you wore Scandal by Night, I think there'd be no question about your intentions. So yeah, the cherry in this is very different to things like in Black Perfecto, and I really like this one because it just is so sweet, so sticky, and so not something that I normally have in my collection. So that's Scanner One Out. So the next one is Bon Bon by Viktor and Rolf, and I have this huge bottle, and honestly I don't wear this fragrance very often, and I'm not particularly in love with this fragrance, but I really, really like the bottle, and I know that's a bit shallow to keep it for the bottle, but I do. So this one is sort of an orangey and something resembling something sweet kind of fragrance. There's not really much to say about it other than that it doesn't last that long. It's not that interesting, but I just really like the bottle. So on to some Tom Fords now. So this one is Tom Ford Noir, and actually this is one that I got gifted for my birthday this year. And my husband saw me looking online at this fragrance and he said to me, "Do you want it?" And I thought, yes. So this was his gift and it's delicious. So I've only worn it a few times actually because my birthday's at the point where spring's kind of starting. So this one is a creamy, vanilla-y, almost like cardamom to me in this fragrance. I don't know whether that's because of the kulfi note maybe, but yeah, it reminds me of cardamom. It's a little bit nutty as well, and yeah, just delicious. But sadly discontinued these days and probably quite hard to find. So that's Tom Ford Noir. So the next fragrance is also a discontinued one from Tom Ford, and that is Tom Ford's Orchid Soleil. So this is a mothball fragrance to begin with. It really smells quite off-putting to begin with. And then when it dries down or starts to dry down, it reminds me of grain stored in a shed. It's sort of dusty and hot and smells of sort of summer harvest time. As it dries down further, you get this really lactonic, creamy vanilla mixed with chestnut. It's a really distinctive fragrance and I can see why it would be polarising. So that's Tom Ford's Orchid Soleil. Another one that's either love or hate, which seems to be the way with Tom Ford fragrances, is Black Orchid. So this one is a chocolatey, truffly fragrance. It's a lot going on in this one. I don't think I can really describe it adequately in a couple of seconds. But yeah, it's a very striking one. It's a very strong one as well. It's not something that you'd want to wear in summer, I don't think. I think this is, you know, the depths of winter, probably when you're doing something special, really. So that's Tom Ford's Black Orchid. So for sure, a YouTube made me buy it moment was Hugo Boss The Scent for Her Private Accord. So this fragrance is described as a chocolate orange fragrance. And I'd say if you do ever smell this, the chocolate orange stays for literally minutes and then it's gone. And actually the fragrance really doesn't last that long either. I think when this bottle's gone, I'm not going to repurchase. So this one is something I tend to wear to bed because that's what Chantal Tiffany, hello Chantal Tiffany advised me to do. So she's the wise one, so listen to Chantal. And actually I really like wearing this to bed in the winter. So that's Hugo Boss The Scent Private Accord. So the next fragrance is Black Opium Intense, and I'd say that this one really should be got under Trade Subscriptions Act because it's not really that intense and it's just a bit different to Black Opium really. I don't really think it deserves the name Intense. So this one has a bitter sort of entrance because it has a absinthe note, and actually that's the most distinctive thing about it really. But that's gone quite quickly and then it dries down into a very custardy vanilla kind of fragrance. Whilst I like this one, I just don't think it's as striking as normal Black Opium. So that's Black Opium Intense. So the next one is another one from Mugler and it's Aura. So Aura is a green vanilla fragrance but with a rhubarb note that I now smell that I didn't previously smell, and also a little bit of ylang-ylang to me as well, but really just a very green vanilla. I think people say that they smell mint and things in this fragrance and I don't really get that, but I think this one is really distinctive and I think it's fading in popularity, and I do wonder whether Mugler will discontinue this soon. That's Aura by Mugler. So the next fragrance is one from Marc Jacobs, and it's really the one that doesn't fit the Marc Jacobs mould, and this is Marc Jacobs Decadence. So I both hate and love this bottle because it's just so kitsch, but ultimately, yeah, it's just very extra, isn't it? So this one is a plum fragrance, but it also has quite a lot of saffron and also to me a lot of rose. And the dry down is an amber sort of like woody fragrance, but it's also quite green, and I could have sworn there's vanilla in this fragrance. It smells like there's vanilla in the fragrance, but I don't think it's listed. But yeah, this one lasts a long time and it really projects. It's one of those you really don't need many sprays of, and it is polarizing. A lot of people don't enjoy this. So that's Marc Jacobs Decadence. So the next one is my only Lolita Lempicka fragrance, and this is LM à la Folie. And when I bought this, I thought I was actually getting the original LM, and I wanted LM because of the coconut, and this one doesn't have coconut, but basically they're the same fragrance other than that. So this is a really solar feeling ylang-ylang fragrance, and this is kind of a beachy fragrance without actually being beachy in the way of coconut or anything. It's tropical smelling, but also quite strong because it has myrrh. I think out of all my fragrances, this is the one that makes me think of sunshine the most. So that's Lolita Lempicka LM à la Folie. So the next fragrance is a celebrity fragrance, and this is probably one of the most well-regarded celebrity fragrances. This is Stash by SJP. So I think the reason that people love this is because it's so unexpected from someone like Sarah Jessica Parker. You just wouldn't expect her to bring out a fragrance that she based around churches and men's skin. It's something that is quite woody and it's quite resinous. I think this one is going to be a classic. It's going to be one that people are searching for. So that's Stash by SJP. The next fragrance is one that I'm always surprised was not marketed as unisex, because I think Gucci would have been more successful with it had they marketed it as unisex. And that is Gucci Guilty Absolute Pour Femme. So this fragrance is a blackberry rose fragrance. This is something that I want to reach for in October when it's turning a little bit cold, and you know, when you've had all those kind of berry fruits in crumbles and things like that. It's quite a woody fragrance. I think it fits with the Gucci Guilty men's line probably better than it does the women's line actually. I think this one is really quite a standout from the women's line. It's very different to the rest of them. So if you've tried all the other Gucci Guilty fragrances, try this one because you might be surprised. So the next fragrance is one from Giorgio Armani, and it's C. I've had this bottle for a couple of years now, and it's honestly one that I rarely reach for. I'm not a massive fan of this. I think I've maybe worn this once this year so far. And this one is a cassis based fragrance. So it's very, very blackcurranty. But actually that blackcurrant comes off much more like red wine or something fermented like beer. I think this makes me feel old. I think that's why I don't really reach for it. It's super sweet as well. It's quite sickly and it's quite strong. It can be just too much for me. So that's C by Giorgio Armani. So this next one is one that people often highlight as a fabulous cheapie, and this is Fifth Avenue Royale by Elizabeth Arden. Honestly, before I watched YouTube and was on YouTube, there is no way I would ever have tried an Elizabeth Arden fragrance. I never thought that it would smell like this. This one is a really boozy leather fragrance, and it's also quite woody, and it has a really nice sort of raspberry note just to lift it a little bit. It's quite subtle, and I think that just makes it a little bit classier. So that's Elizabeth Arden Fifth Avenue Royale. So on to some Middle Eastern fragrances now, and the first one is Amir Al Oud Intense Oud. So this is a fragrance from Lattafa, and this one is a sort of almost nutty, quite sugary, woody fragrance with lots of vanilla. It's just, yeah, something that's quite good for the winter. It's not crazily, strong like a lot of Lattafa fragrances, but it's something that is a bit stealth. Sometimes I stop smelling it and somebody will walk in the room and go, wow, what's that fragrance? So I think ultimately it probably is quite strong. I just stopped smelling it. So that's Lattafa's Amir Al Oud Intense Oud. One that I don't really reach for very often is Lattafa's Sheikh Al Shouk. So this is another one of those Oud Bouquet dupes, but this one has cinnamon in it. So unlike the other dupes, that's probably the thing that distinguishes it. And this one to me just has a kind of weird saffron note in it that I'm not especially keen on. And I think that's why I don't really reach for it. Also, because I took this to work once, I got other people to spray it and then I smelt it on them. And I could literally smell them all the way down the corridor, probably even from about 20 meters away. So I just think this one is just too strong for me. But I'm holding on to it for another winter and seeing how much I wear it, and then I might get rid of this one. So that's Shake As Shook by Lattafa. The next fragrance is Opulent Musk by Lattafa. So this one is a bit of a Baccarat Rouge vibe kind of fragrance. This one is a little bit more medicinal, I'd say, than Baccarat Rouge, and it's less sweet. And it has a very strong saffron in it. And it's also a little bit lemony. And I think this is about £10. And actually, if you want a better Baccarat Rouge dupe, you want to go for Lattafa Rouge. Is it? What's it called? I'll put it up on the screen. So onto my travel sprays and rollerballs now. And I have a little collection, not too many. And this is a rollerball from Kayali. This is Sweet Diamond Pink Pepper and Utopia. I think Sweet Diamond Pink Pepper just reminds me a lot of L'Extase Rose Absolue. But Utopia is really unexpected. I think I was expecting more coconut, but actually it's more white floral based, and I quite like that. So the next one is Signorina Ribelle from Salvatore Ferragamo. And this fragrance, I really wasn't intending to buy this, I don't think. I think I was intending to buy Mysteriosa and I got confused. But this one is the one that's supposed to have the ice cream note. And honestly, I don't really smell ice cream. I smell a light coconut and I smell some yellow florals. It's quite a tropical smelling fragrance, but ultimately it's a very sweet fragrance as well. And it actually quite reminds me of another one of my travel sprays, which is Wanted Girl by Azzaro. So this is just a very sweet fragrance, but based mainly around white florals. And this one is famous because it has a dulce de leche note in it. But I would say that if you're looking for that, you're going to be a little bit disappointed in the main, because ultimately this is more of a white floral fragrance than anything else. Another travel spray I have is La Nuit Trésor Musc Diamant. So this is a beautiful musky fragrance. This is definitely my favourite of the La Nuit Trésor line. I think this one is just a little bit quieter. It's still really long lasting, but it's just a little bit more elegant. It's quite powdery and it's got a slight licoricey feel to it as well, which just gives it a bit of a lift for me and makes it a little bit more interesting. This next one is from Cheyenne Blue and it's White Peaches, and I'd say this one is probably the only peach fragrance that I actually like. I have a real dislike of peach scented fragrances in the main, especially if they're with amber and vanilla. I find that really off-putting, or even with patchouli, I find it off-putting. This one is a drier peach, so this one is more of a dry woody peach, and it smells more like a peach schnapps to me. It's quite a refreshing peach, so I think that's why I like it. It's that Cheyenne Blue White Peaches. This is one that scentSiblings.ca sent to me, and she was very nice to do that. Thank you so much, Julia. So this one is an impression of Chanel Beige, which is a fragrance I've never smelt. And this fragrance to me smells kind of tropical, but also like a body cream. It just makes me think about Market Cosmetics. I'm really enjoying trying a perfume oil as well. They're very different to normal perfumes. They don't project as much, and I'm finding that interesting. So that's Beige by Oil Perfumery. So the final thing is some of my older fragrances. And some of these are quite vintage actually. So one of them is this 4711 bottle. And it's in this watch bottle. And this is something that my grandmother gave me. She used to use this when she had a headache. And I think that is quite a common thing for women of that age to have done. So she gave me this one, which I just open and sniff occasionally. I don't really wear it. But she also gave me this little miniature as well. And I have worn this one. So this is just a very fresh, citrusy, very bright feeling fragrance, summer fragrance. Doesn't last very long, but yeah, I get why people used to use it as a pick-me-up in a way. A more modern fragrance is La Vie Belle. I just have this little mini of La Vie Belle. I feel like La Vie Belle, you can smell it anywhere, so I don't feel like I need more of this. I know it's a really popular fragrance, and I do like it, but I don't need it. One I actually really enjoy is Classique, and this is the EDT version by Jean-Paul Gaultier. And I think actually, you know, in my long-term future, I can see myself buying a bigger bottle of this, because I really like, there's an aspect of this that smells like incense to me at points, like Nag Champa incense. And I like that sort of powdery feel to it. And I know this is quite a vintage fragrance now, but I just really like Classique. Another little mini that I have is Flower Bomb by Viktor and Rolf. Again, I just don't need a bigger bottle of this fragrance. I've already been through one of these minis. These minis actually last forever. They take ages to use up, so I think I'm good for Flower Bomb. And then I also have some little miniatures of some Penhaligon's fragrances, and I've really not tried these to any extent. I've just been sniffing them out of the little bottles. So I have Impressa, I have Halfetti, and I have the Favourite and Luna and Elizabethan Rose. So I will probably do a video on those at one point when I've tried them in a more thorough manner, but I can't really talk about them at the moment because I don't feel like I know them well enough. And then I also have Paloma Picasso by Paloma Picasso. So this fragrance actually reminds me of my great uncle, and that's why I keep it. I don't really wear it. I used to wear it, but yeah, it's just too strong for me, and it's, yeah, too much. It's quite an animalic fragrance, this one, and it's sort of, I'm not sure that this is me. So yeah, I just sniff it from the bottle and think of my great uncle. And then I also have this Anais little mini bottle, and I found this in a drawer at home, and it's still good, so I've been wearing that. But yeah, this is so strong, this Anais. I don't think it's as strong now, but this one is nuclear. And then I also have this little miniature of Ralph Lauren's Lauren, which I think is discontinued now, and it's actually quite hard to find. So this is a Lily of the Valley fragrance, and I don't really have many Lily of the Valley fragrances, so I'm quite enjoying sniffing that one too. And then finally I have this little Guy Laroche miniature. Again, this is one that I don't love, but I just keep in my collection for reference. So that's the end of part 2. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, then please press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And if you haven't seen part 1, I'll leave it linked in the description box below so you can go and check it out at your leisure. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!